Don't worry, I'm here. I was just having technical issues with light coming through the window at just the wrong place. So look, to be honest, this is a video that's very much related to the video that I already have done on what are you supposed to do with gold? How do you deal with treasure? But this is going another step further from there to actually answer a lot of questions that other YouTubers have already covered. But instead of just covering the same sort of material they have, I'm going to talk about a lot of the issues that nobody else seems to be talking about on YouTube. And I'm going to do that first. I'm going to leave one of the more important aspects to the very end of the video. You will find the start time for this video down in the description. Once it pretty much I get a chance to stick the time in there. But it will go unlisted, so it won't be actually available on YouTube till a little bit later, as they're usually unlisted. Pardon me, I'm a little bit, it's a bit cold here in New Zealand. So yes, it'll be unlisted. It will be available to patrons, but if you want to access the live stream, you will have to go through notifications. So if you see a live stream pop up on your screen, you'll know that those are only accessible through your notifications. Now, I will put an edited version up at a later date. Don't worry, that will happen. I will do my presentation first. Once I've done my presentation and covered everything, I will then open it up for questions and answers at the end and answer any questions people might have and cover anything that people might be interested in. We'll see how we go. All right, so the sound seems to be working fine. So let's go into the topic, and I will try to cover this fairly quickly. I will give you my face because that's sort of nice to have a human face in the screen from time to time, right? And I'm going to talk about the different types of rewards that you can offer in the game and some of the issues you may have to deal with in the game as a dungeon master. That's often the case, and we'll cover all of that sort of stuff. Anyway, I'm just going to have a drink of water. This may well be one of those topics that nobody really is terribly interested in. You never know. I have been doing a lot of videos, so I totally understand if people are starting to get worn down just a little bit by the frequency, but I'm trying really hard to make myself available as often as possible. All right, I'll just see if I can get... Come on, you. Give me... There it is. There it is. Okay, so we're it's got got control over OBS now. Hi, welcome to HowtoDandD. My name is Fred Wheeler, and today I'm going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons. And today's topic is character rewards for Dungeons and Dragons 5e, or really any version of Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder. It doesn't really matter. Any kind of roleplay game. Essentially, all of the same principles apply. It doesn't matter which system you're playing in. Okay, so there's a lot of different character rewards that a dungeon master can give out. And I'm going to give you a really nice big list of options. But there are, in fact, a few problems that I want to talk about first. We'll deal with the issues and the problems with giving out rewards first that you need to deal with before talking about the different types of rewards you can give out and how they would apply in your game. I'm also, at the very end of the video, I'm going to talk about one aspect to giving out rewards that a lot of people seem to forget about and comes up constantly. So let's cover those sort of topics, shall we? So issues and problems. Players have different opinions of what they consider to be a reward in the game of Dungeons and Dragons, or any kind of role-play game. It doesn't really matter what it is. So because all of your players, the people at your table, have a different opinion, you need to have an idea of what their opinion of a good reward is, or a poor reward is. Otherwise, you might be giving out the wrong sort of stuff and not getting the kind of results you want from your players. They may, in fact, be quite annoyed by what you've handed out. Some rewards will actually work best at different levels of play. So some rewards work good at low level, other rewards will work well at any level, and some rewards really only work well effectively in the game at higher levels. So we have to talk about that as well. Okay, the other thing is rewards don't fix adventures. So just because you give out a reward, it will not fix the problems with your adventure. If your players find your adventure boring, you have to fix that problem before thinking, giving out rewards. That's the issue around that. So don't use rewards as a crutch, because it won't solve the problems that you have at the table. Okay, so we've talked roughly about some of the issues that can come up. The last issue I will talk about at the very end of the video. What can you do to solve the problem of these issues that I've talked about? Well, the easiest way is to go and talk to the players first. Or if you find that might be just a bit too difficult to do, you can do what one of the dungeon masters that I've come across did many years ago, which we all found quite amusing, but we still did it. They gave out like a survey. They took a survey and they listed a whole lot of different things, and we just had to go through and tick the things on the list that we considered a reward, and we just left anything we considered to be rubbish as far as we were concerned and not a reward. So very easy to do as a dungeon master, not hard, very simple. So what different character rewards can you offer? So treasure is a very obvious solution as a reward. It is gold, coins, gems. These are all good at low level, but less helpful at higher levels, where really gold and wealth means very, very little to them whatsoever. It does allow for player choice and agency. It allows them to make choices about what they will spend their money or gold on, or their wealth on. So you won't remove that from the game, but you will see that as that's a very simple reward that I can apply when we're dealing with low level play. Okay, so what's the next one? I'd say number 2 is experience points. Only problem is, if you don't use experience points because you're using the milestones, then experience points won't work. So often experience points are used to track progression and advancement in character level, and really that's one of the easiest ways of rewarding somebody, but only if the player sees that. If you have players that don't actually track and keep an eye on their experience points in terms of when they will level up, then that's a pointless reward to give them, because they won't actually get very much out of it. One reward that I think is not utilized enough is inspiration. And I mean, use inspiration outside of the player's handbook. Forget about the guidelines in the player's handbook. Use it anytime. Doesn't matter what level it is. You can use it. Basically, they get advantage or disadvantage. They can remove disadvantage. They can do that for their character or for another player at the table. It's actually a hugely useful feature, which a lot of people completely forget about. But certainly I would use that in your game if you get a chance to. Inspiration. There is another one that people use, which is basically like hero points, where you roll a dice, whatever value you've decided, whether that be a D4, D6, D8, D10, D12, and you add that number from that dice to any dice roll you make in the game, which is very, very powerful, and it's supposed to sort of represent the player being able to do something stupendous at a particular time. So hero points are yet another option if you really wanted to. Okay, so what about things like boons? These are permanent benefits to the character. Only problem is it's a permanent benefit. When you start lifting somebody's ability score up, or their modifiers, or giving them a feature that's permanent, you're essentially making them more powerful, which means you now have to modify your adventure and make your monsters more powerful, unless of course you really want the character to be more powerful without making adjustments. It is best used at high level. Low level play with boons, not so great an idea. High level play from about level 5 onward is it just snowballs, so it won't really matter. You can give them more stuff, and it isn't going to make them. It'll make them more powerful, but in terms of the effect on the game, you're already dealing with a snowball effect anyway, so it won't really have a huge effect. But your players will consider it a huge benefit to them. Okay, the big elephant in the room, and that is magic items. Now, I don't necessarily mean just consumable magic items. You certainly can give out consumable magic items. I think that consumable magic items are a better option in some cases than permanent magic items, but the problem is that permanent magic items are expected by modern gamers. It is almost all players of Dungeons & Dragons have been exposed to video games, which means they will expect them. The effect on the game is massive. And I would suggest to you is be very careful when you start dishing these out. I say from really about level 5 onward is the right time to start giving out magic items. They don't all have to be weapons. They don't all have to be armor. My suggestion to you is get creative and watch lots of Harry Potter, because Harry Potter has got lots of very, very cool utility-based magic items that are kind of quite amusing, and your players may come up with quite unique ways of applying them in the game. So I would suggest going and watching lots of Harry Potter. There's lots of very cool magic items that aren't just swords and an armor. So certainly go and try that one out first. Okay, what about a non-player character contact? Somebody that they can go and see when they need help. Now, the great thing about a non-player character contact is you can use it at any level. It's always useful. It is useful for the players, and it is hugely useful, and let's be selfish, for the Dungeon Master, because it can push the characters and the players back on track and in the right direction. So I would utilize your non-player characters contact, whether that be a patron or somebody who supports them. It might be somebody who simply will offer give them money when they need to. It might even be a god. It could be somebody who's a god that provides information at the right time, or a sage. It doesn't matter. You decide. Those are really good ways of capturing the character and really pushing them in the right direction, and they feel like they have achieved something. What about leveling up? Well, leveling up is fine. You can just give them another level. But only really works if you are willing to do so, and it's again a lot more. It's not quite as the same as giving them experience points. It works better if you're using a milestone, and it works if your story allows for it. So if you are fine for them to level up at this point and it's going to work for you and you feel like they have achieved something, then great, do it. Works best, as I said, with somebody who uses milestones rather than trying to award experience points, which would mean nothing in a milestone game anyway. Okay, what about character development quests and chances? So a way of developing and giving the player something that they can play with. Look, often most players will have some sort of vision for their character. If you give them a specific quest that it doesn't have to be long, that is going to help fulfill and develop their character, often that is hugely rewarding for a player. So I would do that, or a chance to at least develop their character in some way. So those are also rewards. You can give them a title, a position. Maybe the position is an important position within the city, running the city, a council member or something like that. Anyone can get a knighthood. You can give a knighthood to anybody. You just need somebody who can apply that. You need a monarchy. You need a queen or a king or something like that. So making them a noble of some kind. The thing with giving out titles, positions, and knighthoods is that it has extra benefits tied to it. So usually if you have a knighthood, you also wind up with land and property, or in some cases also additionally wealth. So that's like gold, treasure, coin, that sort of thing. So be wary when you're utilizing this. This particular feature works best, I would say, at higher levels. I would starting to look at titles anywhere from level 5 or level 10 upward, depending on how far you're going to take your campaign. If you're going from level 1 to level 20, then aim for about level 10. If you're only going from level 1 to level 10, then aim for about level 5 with your knighthoods and titles and positions. And of course, if it doesn't work in terms of the story, then don't do that. Don't forget the benefits of utilizing, giving them property. So properties are a really good one. I know a lot of people forget about this, but the likelihood of giving them a vehicle or a ship, these are all really helpful. Land is always nice as well. These not only solve the issue of them traveling from one location to another, you can give them a submarine, you can give them a floating balloon. make it all very fantasy. These are all great. These solve the problems of having to transport themselves by horse or by foot from one location to another. So even though it's a reward for the players, it's actually going to really help you as a dungeon master. So don't leave that and think, oh no, I don't need to worry about that. Don't forget castles and land, a manor, a house, like a home base. Castle Greyskull. It does not have to be a full-fledged castle. It could be just a fortification. It might be in disarray or ruined, and they might have to rebuild it. These are still rewards, and whether the players are interested, you just need to listen to what they are saying. If that's the sort of thing that appeals to them, then go with it and do that. Don't forget, you can give out a business. Why not? If they want a tavern, give them a tavern. Give them a business that they can run, something that will tickle their fancy in some way. I often find it interesting that players will often want to run a business, even something like a blacksmith or a shop where they can sell a lot of the stuff that they have collected during their adventures. So a business makes a lot of sense as a reward. Make sure to give out odd or interesting trinkets, mundane items. The only I like using the trinket table. The only problem with trinkets is it doesn't always work. A lot of players just consider that a throwaway, and they never look at it ever again and just feel like they have been cheated by the dungeon master. So don't use them unless you have a player at the table, a person who is going to find that quite interesting. And I would give them trinkets that can be tied to the adventure in some way, so that it might be like it might be a key or part of a key or a section, something that is required somewhere within their adventure, rather than it just being an item that they pick up that has no sort of link to the adventure that you are running or the campaign you're running. So make sure if it's linked, that'll help a lot. Okay, let's get really funky now. What about give them a quest that they want to do? Now, I kind of already covered that to a large extent, but what I mean is often players have this vision or belief about what they want to do and experience in the game of Dungeons & Dragons. And that will often be tied around fighting a particular monster. They're looking for an epic experience. They are looking for a battle with a beholder, a dragon, or some other legendary Dungeons & Dragons monster. They're really wanting to see just what it's like to face these well-known creatures. This is very much not so much as a player, a character tie-in, but more at a player level where people sort of have these visions and beliefs, and they want to sort of experience that. So you can make that happen by giving them a battle with a monster that they have been talking about a lot. Or I had a dungeon master years ago give out a survey asking, please, tell me 3 monsters that your character would like to fight at some point within the campaign. And it was as simple as doing that. And then you take that information, and then you know what you're going to be having to put into your adventure, and you know if it's going to work for the campaign or story you're running. What about a mount? Look, we don't always want to be riding on a horse or an elephant or a camel, some players will be happy with just getting an elephant to ride, or a camel, something other than just a horse. An unusual or rare or exotic creature that they can use as a mount. Look, I did a video on dragon riders. Now, it doesn't have to be a dragon. It can be anything you like. And it can be exotic. It's something that's sort of just for them. And I would give them a mount that's got plenty of hit points, so they don't have to worry about this exotic and unusual and rare mount staying home, because every time they get hit with fireball, the mount dies, and of course they can't go and buy another one because it's so rare and exotic. So my suggestion to you is, it does not have to have a combat focus behind it, but it's still another way of allowing them to have something that's cool, that's just for them, and allows them to maneuver from one location to another without just dealing with the normal, let's clean up the horse manure. Okay, so make it a little bit more interesting for them. All right, so this is the factor that a lot of people forget with regard to character rewards in the game of Dungeons & Dragons, Pathfinder, or any role-play game. And unfortunately, it is often overlooked, and that is don't give out rewards that are going to create conflicts. If there is a reward in the game that you give out and you know specifically there are two individuals who will probably fight over it because it would be useful for both characters, then try to figure out how to make sure that item goes to the individual you want it to go to. And why not have two? Does it there have to only be one of this thing that the players are going to likely fight over? I would often see this happen many times, and then of course it deteriorates down into a argument or a roll-off of a d20 to decide who's going to get it. But often these tie up huge amounts of time because players want the same reward. This usually is a result of magic items. Usually it's a battle over who's going to get that magic item that the Dungeon Master has revealed in their adventure. So be very, very cunning about how you apply this. It might be that the magic item can only be handled by somebody of a particular class and alignment. So put some restrictions in there so that only one individual within there can actually get it. And remember that if you do something like that, one of the players who really wanted that as well is going to feel really bad about it. So if they deserve to have a reward, try to find something that they still feel is a benefit to them that's just as equal in measure. That's a hard thing to do, but certainly you still need to think about doing that. I would suggest to you use lots of different types of character rewards. Don't use the same things over and over again. You do need to mix things up. You do need to have a good idea of what your players like and what they don't like. I've done hundreds of videos for players and Dungeon Masters. I have a bunch of videos on dealing with gold and rewards, magic items, crafting magic items, mounts, all that sort of stuff. You're welcome to go and check out those videos. You'll find something that's useful, I'm sure. If you want to support the channel so I keep doing stuff like this, I have a Patreon page where you get access to the live streams and other content and priority on the videos that I make. I also have a affiliate link to the book depository and Amazon down in the description where you can buy stuff and I get a small commission. I have a merchandise shelf just underneath the video which allows you to sort of buy stuff and I get some of the profits. And make sure to share, like and subscribe. Hit the bell button to be notified when I go live, and I go live a lot and when I edit new videos and publish them. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s. I'm not gone, just need a second. Hi Sam. I will switch back to the camera in a second. I just need I just need my glasses. So if you have any questions or any feedback, chuck that into the comments now before I disappear. I do have another video for today that I will be doing very, very shortly. That's a topic that I don't think you'll have ever seen on YouTube. I've been saving some of these things up. I'm slowly but surely working my way through a lot of the stuff I had planned to do over the numerous years, and which means that eventually you guys might actually get all the stuff that I had always wanted to do, which is good. Let's hope that everything keeps growing for me, and I can keep this up permanently. All right, so back to my face. For those of you who prefer to see a human rather than just static pictures, bam! There we go. There's the face. Hopefully YouTube can cope with it. It's been an interesting process. I've noticed recently there's been a lot of changes. I have really struggled to get a lot of the content on my channel uploaded, processed live streams, made copies, all that sort of stuff, as YouTube is making all sorts of changes on their platform, and it is just causing a huge number of slowdowns at my end, and probably for a lot of other YouTubers. Okay, so we've got Sam Collins here. I'm glad you can make it, Sam. We've got Fred Hubbers here as well. You can give permanent magic items that have low effects. Yes, you can. Ever full bottle of water. Yep, pours out a rate of 1 gallon an hour. The pour rate is often not listed for every item. Give it a rate. Yes, because I know of some people, if they could get a bottle that always pours out water, and there's a dungeon, they will try to flood the dungeon. I've heard the people trying to do this before, where they will take that bottle of water or that decanter and just pour it. And if the pour rate is fast enough, then they will flood the entire place, or they'll just lean the bottle over so it's always funneling out. Then they'll go and have a long rest, come back later, and then of course all of the monsters have drowned. There are other things that you can do, but yes, I do get what you mean by that, F Hubber, which is why I said if you're going to give out magic items, have a look at Harry Potter. Now, Harry Potter has a really good selection of cool items that do fun stuff that aren't necessarily tied to combat or tied to a huge game-breaking benefit. So that doesn't mean that players won't figure out how to do that, but it's certainly really useful. Now you've done the carrot video for rewarding good actions. Do the stick video for how to punish murder hobos. Now, see, I could do a video on murder hobos, and I may well do, but it will not be the same murder hobo video that you've seen by other YouTubers. I decided with this video, because there's been a couple of people, I think at least 3 people who did videos on the same topic. I would suggest going and checking out Quest Givers. It's got a really good channel, gives good advice. I believe there was Matthew Mercer had a video on the topic as well, which I thought was good. There was actually somebody else as well who I've not actually ever seen before who had some good advice as well. So there's only about 3 that I could think of that I could see that sort of covered the topic. But I decided that when I was looking at this that there was actually more that needed to be said, and I thought the things that were really important, one, at the end, and that is making sure you don't create a conflict between your players, and also all of the issues with the types of rewards you give out. They're useful for certain types of things, they're not useful for everything, and you can't use them all the time, so you do need to be discerning and careful about what you do with them. Okay, alright, so we have covered everything. Oh, I suppose I should tell you what the next video is. I will be back on next live stream. The next live stream is about an hour and a half from now. It is 1 p.m. New Zealand Standard Time. I'm going to be covering Dungeons and Dragons adventuring gear. A specific piece of item, you'll probably see it go up on the YouTube channel if you get notified. A very specific piece of item in your adventuring gear that a lot of people don't understand or know how to use. And I thought that would be a topic. Nobody else has done it, so I'm going to do that topic for the next video, which is coming up very, very shortly. And I really hope that that's going to be helpful to somebody in some way. Okay, have a good night, day, morning, afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Do not do anything foolish. Look after your family and your friends. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s. Typical. I can't even type in a comment into the live chat. YouTube, you suck. You suck. YouTube, suck. Right now, stop mucking around with the system. Stop. Okay. All right, I'll be back shortly.